يقول راجي عفو رب سامعي محمد بن الجزري الشافعي: الحمد لله وصلى الله على نبيه ومصطفاه محمد وآله وصحبه ومقرئ القرآن مع محبه. وبعد إن هذه مقدمة فيما على قارئه أن يعلمه، إذ واجب عليهم محتم قبل الشروع أولا أن يعلموا مخارج الحروف والصفات ليلفظوا بأفصح اللغات، محرر التجويد والمواقف وما الذي رسم في المصاحف.
الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا، انفعنا بما علمتنا، وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين. O Allah, teach us what benefit us, increase us in knowledge, in good morals and in good deeds ya Rabb al-Alameen. Aljazariyya 56. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings, we have reached Aljazariyya 56, and we are still in the section of Tajweed, which is which section is that? The fourth section, right? So the first section was the introduction, the second section was Makharij al-Huruf, and the third was Sifat al-Huruf, and this is the section of Tajweed, which is the fourth section. Imam Ibn Jazari said, rahimahullah, in this section, وَالْأَخْذُ بِالتَّجْوِيدِ حَتْمٌ لَازِمُ مَنْ لَمْ يُصَحِّحِ الْقُرْآنَ آثِمُ لِأَنَّهُ بِهِ الْإِلَهُ أَنزَلَ وَهَكَذَا مِنْهُ إِلَيْنَا وَصَلَ. This is where we stop. وَهَكَذَا مِنْهُ إِلَيْنَا وَصَلَ. We said applying tajweed is mandatory. وَالْأَخْذُ بِالتَّجْوِيدِ حَتْمٌ لَازِمُ, definitely an obligation. مَنْ لَمْ يُصَحِّحِ الْقُرْآنَ آثِمُ. Whoever does not correct his recitation of the Qur'an in a way that makes him avoid the mistakes that change the meaning is a sinner. So that's the detail of a whole class, or two classes that we explained earlier about the detailed ruling of learning the rulings of tajweed. Why? He said in the second line, لِأَنَّهُ, because the matter is بِهِ الْإِلَهُ أَنزَلَ. Bihi means what? With it. With what? Bihi al-ilahu anzala. With what? With tajweed. You have to learn tajweed because Allah revealed it, with tajweed. Bihi al-ilahu anzala. وَهَكَذَا, and thus, or in this way, minhu, from Allah, ilayna, to us, wasala, arrived or reached. So we have been learning for the last, I think, 6 or more classes about this half line. And this half line, wallahi guys, believe me, and one of you told me that they had discussion at college about the Quran and etc. And alhamdulillah, she said she feels like comfortable about this topic because we already learned it here. So as a hafiz, as an ijazah seeker, it's not enough just to know how to read. You have to know the history of this book, right? You have to know how this book reached us. And this is what we have been covering. And also you have to know about the different recitations of this book. Even if you don't learn them, at least you have to know, right? If you don't know, or if you don't have to know, then who has to know these things, right? So this is basic information for the Quran students. So let's continue from where we stopped. We said Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu, he copied 6 copies, or 5 or 7, and he sent them to the main Muslim cities, Mecca, Medina, and he kept one for himself. And this is why we have Al-Mushaf al-Madani al-Am, the, let's say, public Madani Mushaf, and the Mushaf al-Madani al-Khas, the special Madani Mushaf that Sayyidina Uthman kept with him. And he was reading it when the hypocrites and the people in his time, the hypocrites in his time, they killed him. He was reading on that mushaf, and his blood fell on that mushaf, and then that mushaf remained until late centuries, and many scholars saw it and saw the blood on that mushaf. So the Madani, so 2 in Medina and 1 in Mecca, and he sent 1 to Sham and 1 to Basra and 1 to Kufa. These are the agreed upon, and some scholars they add the one to Bahrain, and Bahrain is not Bahrain of today, this small country. Bahrain is the eastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, which includes today Kuwait and other countries. So he standardized the Quran. He said he made copies from the copy that was written in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, then it was compiled in the time of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. What is the special thing Sayyidina Uthman did? Some of the special things. This is still review. Some of the special things Sayyidina Uthman did. Tell me. Some of the differences between what Sayyidina Abu Bakr did and what Sayyidina Uthman did. Sayyidina Uthman, he made all of those scrolls or suhuf, he made them in one book and he made copies of that collection. He made 6 copies. And he accommodated the 7 ahruf into those copies. And those scrolls of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, definitely there was only one harf that was accommodated there, because some ahruf cannot be accommodated in the same copy, as we mentioned in the example. They cannot write وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ and وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ in the same copy. That cannot be done. Then how the qira'at was preserved? They were preserved as they are preserved today, by oral transmission. So Sayyidina Uthman accommodated those differences, little differences, into the copies. And this is why we said, for example, in the Mus'haf of Sham that he sent to Sham, he did not put huwa, and he selected the qurra who knew that recitation and sent with every Mus'haf a skillful reciter who knows that recitation in that Mus'haf, right? Of course, this is the main thing. This is the main thing, the main difference between what Sayyidina Uthman did and what Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did. Honestly, this is the main difference. And as we mentioned, don't listen to those who say, Sayyidina Uthman abrogated 6 of the 7 ahruf that. Yes, some scholars they said it, but that is not right. And we mentioned the proofs for that, right? Now, Muslims, as you can see in the picture, after that, what did they do? They made countless copies, right, Ya Sheikh? This is just an example. They made countless copies of, you can tilt it to the left so that the movement can be easier. They made countless copies of those masahif, because now these are the standard, the references. And we said Sayyidina Uthman commanded the Sahaba and the Muslims to burn any other copy that they had. So he standardized, right, the Mus'haf. And anyone who wants to make a copy, okay, come here and take from the Al-Mus'haf al-Imam. And this is why those Masahif, they call them Al-Masahif al-A'imma. Al-Masahif al-A'imma. Anyone in any of those cities, in the Muslim world, he wants to make a copy, he has to make it from what? From that copy. And again, still the reliance is on the oral transmission. Because, as we mentioned, the Quran did not have dots or harakat at that time. Did not have dots or tashkil or vowels at that time. This is why we said in that main copy that was written in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it accepted most of the 7 ahruf. Because the 7 ahruf, as we explained them in the detailed class, some of them are about dialects. So dialects can be accommodated easily in that copy. Because the dots, dialect is not about change in the words, it's about change in the way you pronounce the words. And some af'al like yaf'alun like يعملون or تعملون, what they do or what you do. This can be accommodated easily because there were no dots. So most of the differences in the qira'at, or most of the ahruf, and as you mentioned, the ahruf are, alhamdulillah, yesterday I watched a lecture by one of the sheikhs, the first time in my life I see on YouTube someone who said the right opinion. So he said what? As we mentioned, the 7 ahruf are 7 categories of differences in the qira'ah. Okay? So those 7 categories of differences, most of them were accommodated already in the Qur'anic writing in the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the time of Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Okay? Now those ahruf that were not accommodated, Sayyidina Uthman and the Sahaba in his time accommodated them by what? Including them in some of the copies that he made and sent to the Muslim world. And this is why later on Muslims by consensus agreed that any person who comes and claims that this qira'ah, I got this qira'ah from the Prophet ﷺ, we say you have to meet 3 conditions. Now any qira'ah from that time until now, until the day of judgment, if someone claims that this qira'ah is acceptable or this is Quran, it must meet 3 conditions. And the scholars did not find those conditions applied except to the 10 qira'at that we have today. So it's over. No one can come anymore and say, this is a correct qira'ah. What are those conditions? The first condition, as Imam Aljazariyya said in طيبة النشر رحمه الله, فكل ما وافق وجه نحوي وكان للرسم احتمالا يحوي وصح إسنادا هو القرآن فهذه الثلاثة الأركان. He said there are 3 pillars of the correct qira'ah, the accepted qira'ah or the Quran. For a qira'ah to be considered a Quran, it must have 3 conditions. Write them down. First one is what? It must be accommodated in one of the 6 Uthmani masahif. It must be there. For example, let me give you an example. If someone says, suppose we don't have in the Shami and the Madani masahif, suppose we don't have in the Makki mushaf, suppose we don't have tajri min tahtiha al-anhar in Surah At-Tawbah ayah what, 100? Ayah 100. Check, is it 100? Suppose in that ayah we don't have, in the Makki mushaf, suppose we don't have tajri min tahtiha. Suppose in all of the 6 masahif that Sayyidina Uthman spread, suppose that ayah, Surah At-Tawbah ayah, what ya Shaykh? 100?
Yeah, 100.
Ayah 100 in Surah At-Tawbah, suppose that we don't have in that ayah the word min in the Makki mushaf. And someone came and said, no, I read this to the Prophet, it's tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Tawbah ayah 100. We say no, that's not acceptable. Because the Sahaba accommodated all of the qira'at in the Uthmani masahif. Did you get that? Did you get that? As I told you, I'm telling you again, you will never find, even the Shaykh, may Allah reward him, he mentioned this, but he missed so many points about this topic. And of course, because he cannot cover it in his short lecture. And so this is why I'm telling you again, these are precious lectures that you will not find out there. And and in the books, you will not hardly find someone who will mention these opinions, and if you find it will be only in Arabic. So focus well and take the notes. So the first condition for a qira'ah to be considered a Quran and to be acceptable is what, ya sister? It must be complied with at least one of the 6 Uthmani masahif. Now someone says, where are they? Now we will explain today inshallah, where are those Uthmani masahif? They're gone. But we will explain how we can generate them and how the scholars preserved them even though they're gone, but the scholars preserved them. How? We're going to mention inshallah today. The second condition for a qira'ah to be acceptable is what? Tawatur. Now today we have some qira'at, guys. It complies with the Qur'anic writing of the six Uthmani Masahif, and it's acceptable in Arabic, at least in one of the Arabic schools, or the schools of Arabic, in its grammar, but it's not mutawatir, and it reaches us from authentic chain, like the four qira'at, the extra four qira'at. This is why many people in our time, they learn those qira'at, the extra four, and they get ijazah in them even though they're not considered Quran. Why? Because they did not come to us through tawatur chains. They came to us through one or two or three chains. But the 10 qira'at, thousands of chains. So those qira'at, like qira'at Hasan Basri, the great tabi', he's a great trustworthy person. But the scholars did not accept his qira'ah to be a Quran because it's not mutawatir. We don't have a lot of chains for that qira'ah, so we don't accept it. Even though it complies with the first condition, which is the Uthmani script. And even though in Arabic language it's acceptable, they didn't accept it. But now, even those four qira'at, they have some benefits. The scholars, they study them, they have some linguistic benefits, they have some benefits related to tafsir, etc., etc. But you cannot read them in salah, for example. They're not considered Quran. Quran must be mutawatir. The third condition is what? Is that it has to be فَكُلُّ مَا وَافَقَ وَجْهَ نَحْوِ. It must be acceptable, at least in grammatically acceptable, at least in one of the schools of Arabic. You know, the Arabs have many schools based on their many tribes. You understand? Based on the different tribes, they have some different grammar. And if you study Arabic grammar in depth, you will see how, for example, some Arab tribes, for the dual or for al-asma al-khamsa, some Arab tribes, they make it Abu, Aba, Abi, and some tribes they keep it the same, Abu, 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 or Aba, Aba, Aba in all positions. So it depends on the tribe. So we have many tribes, and this is why we have many Arabic schools of grammar, many schools of Arabic grammar. So these are the three conditions for any acceptable qira'ah, and the 10 qira'at we have today, they all meet these conditions. Now, any question about that? This is what Imam Aljazariyya said, rahimahullah, فَكُلُّ مَا وَافَقَ وَجْهَ نَحْوِ. Every qira'ah that complies with any of the schools of Arabic language or Arabic grammar. وَكَانَ لِلرَّسْمِ احْتِمَالًا يَحْوِي. And it complies to the Uthmani script even by possibility. What does that mean? احتمالا. For example, focus on this example. For example, in حفظ ربنا باعد بين أسفارنا, right? Now this word, we have two things. We have تحقيقا and احتمالا. تحقيقا means the word as it is, and احتمالا the possible readings of that word. So any qira'ah must comply with the Uthmani script, either in the main form or in a possible form. What does that mean? This cannot be ba'id, but if we have the dagger alif, it can be acceptable as ba'id. It's possible, right? So this could be ba'id and could be ba'id. The ba'ada could be ba'ada and could be ba'id and could be ba'ada. Okay? So this is tahqiqan. Originally, if the qira'ah is ba'id, it can be acceptable, or ba'ada, it can be acceptable. And if we add the alif, that's ihtimal, and that's possible, because the Arabs sometimes would skip the alif. So in this way, all of those qira'at, they comply with this. Same thing, if we say ta'malun, It used to be written this way. This can be تعملون and يعملون. So both of these qira'at, they comply with this script. Do you understand? But for example, wassa. Wassa, here the Arabs will not leave the alif in the beginning. So this wassa cannot be awsa. This is why in the Uthmani Masahif, in one of them he wrote wassa and in one of them he wrote awsa. Awsa biha instead of wassa. So in all of those qira'at, they must comply with one of those Uthmani Masahif that were copied from the Siddiqi scrolls that were compiled or copied from the prophetic parchments and pieces. And this way, as I told you, this word that I showed you in every Quran, بالرسم العثماني, I wish the scholars they added بالرسم العثماني الصديقي النبوي, because it is also the script that was in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is why many scholars, or the vast majority of the Muslim scholars, they say it's forbidden to change this script. It's forbidden. Means what? The script itself, not to add dots, not to make it clear, not to the main letters, it's forbidden to change it. Even if a letter is silent, it's forbidden to remove that letter. And we're going to mention this inshallah today as well. So let's move on. How did the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, how did they preserve the Uthmani, Siddiqi, prophetic or Nabawi script? Let's first go to the first stage. The first stage, as you can see in this picture, this is an example how the writing was in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Uthman and some of the time of the Khilafah of Sayyidina Ali as well. This is how it was. No dots, no harakat. Well, how will the Arab read it? Just as you now, as an English-speaking person, when you say, I read a book yesterday, and you say, I read a book every day. The word read is written the same, R-E-A-D. But in the first sentence, you will say, I read a book yesterday. And the second, you say, I read a book every day. It's the same word, the same letters. One time you read it as read, one time you read it as read. How? From the context. Right? Same thing here, the Arab will know. This is, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. Right? He will not come, an Arab will not come and say here, آمَتُوا, for example. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَتُوا. It doesn't make any sense. Or يَا بُهَا الَّذِينَ. Or يَا نُهَا الَّذِينَ. You understand? So this is an example of how the Qur'anic writing was in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and time of Sayyidina Ali's Khilaf. Here, anyone can guess this? شو زاهد بين معك؟ شو هاي؟ ها؟ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق. And this one, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس, etc. You can see that these are original manuscripts, not like fake ones. So this is how, as you can see, we can read it even without the dots, even without the harakat. Now, what happened? We have, in the time of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, of course, you know, in the time of Sayyidina Uthman, guys, all of the Arabian Peninsula, and Sham, of course, and Iraq, and Iran, and Egypt, all of that, all of those countries were under the leadership of the Muslim rule. So a huge number of non-Arabs accepted Islam. And some remained as non-Muslims, because Islam never forces people to embrace it. What happened? Of course, if a non-Arab now wants to read, he will make mistakes, very possible, right? Very possible. And Sayyiduna Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, radiallahu anhu, from the students of Sayyidina Ali and the students of Sayyidina Uthman, and he's of the Tabi'een, they narrate, doesn't matter if the story is authentic or not, but the need was there for the harakat in the first place, let's say. For putting signs for the i'rab. They say he was passing by one of the houses in Kufa and he heard someone saying, وَأَذَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ وَأَذَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ سورة التوبة وأذان من الله ورسوله إلى الناس يوم الحج الأكبر أن الله بريء من المشركين ورسوله. And he heard this and he got, oh my God, he got so upset. He said, حاشا لله أن يتبرأ من رسوله. What does that mean? I think I mentioned this before, right? In one of the classes in this section. So the ayah says, وَأَذَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, declaration from Allah and His Messenger that to the people in the day of the major pilgrimage that Allah, أَنَّ اللَّهَ بَرِيءٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ وَرَسُولُهُ. This is how it is, right? So this man read it, وَرَسُولِهِ. Declaration that Allah is free of the polytheists and His Messenger is free of them. This is what it means. But that man read it, وَرَسُولِهِ, which becomes what? That Allah is free from the polytheists and free of the Prophet. Means like he is disowning him. Right? That made Sayyidina Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali get upset, of course, because that's kufr, right? That's blasphemy. So what did he do? He started thinking, and some narrations say that he talked to Sayyidina Ali, and Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu directed him to put some signs for i'rab. Some signs for i'rab. What is i'rab, ya sister? Sister in the middle, there. You. What is i'rab? We mentioned that before in the beginning. We said any mistake that changes the i'rab is a mistake that you must correct, that you must avoid. What is i'rab? The changing of the harakah of the ends of the words based on its position in the word. Okay? So, this is the i'rab. Changing of the harakah at the end of the word changes the position of the word and the task of the word from a subject to an object. So this is why he found the need for putting what? Some signs for what? For i'rab. Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali radiallahu anhu, some of his students, Nasr bin Asim al-Laythi and Yahya bin Ya'mur. So he worked, and Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu directed him according to some narrations. But they had a problem. And he first was very hesitant because they did not accept to add anything to the Qur'anic text because it's sacred. You remember we said it's sacred. So they did not accept to add anything. Then they came to a solution, which is putting those signs in a different color from the Qur'anic text. They put them in the red color with a red ink. With red ink. So as you can see in this picture, let's move. With the spread of Islam in the land and the acceptance or the embracing of Islam by many non-Arabs and mixing with the Arabs, we started having some mistakes. Lahan, as you mentioned, we have lahan jali, lahan khafi. Some mistakes in the Arabic language. Means people started making some mistakes when they're reading that pushed the scholars to put some signs for what, ya sister? For what? You have to answer when I point at you to show me that you really follow me. They put some signs for what? Tell her. I'rab. So that people follow them. And Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali radiallahu anhu, who passed away 69 of the Hijrah. Guys, just 69 years after the migration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Muslims were very aware from that early time. They were very careful about preserving the Mus'haf from that early time, even before, of course. But see, now they started to add something to make it even more preserved and less subject to mistakes. So what did he do? He put dots. Look what he put. He put dots, but not to distinguish the letters from each other, but to distinguish the i'rab. So what did he put? He put dots for what? For i'rab. I'm going to ask you these questions in the test, inshallah. So some scholars, they say Sayyidina Ali told him also about, this is the thing that does the verb, that does the action, it is called fa'il, and this is maf'ul, and etc. And he said to him, wanhu hadha al-nahu. So he said to him, follow this method. So they call that science of the language, they called it nahu. They call it ilm and nahu, which is in English what? Syntax. Okay? So he got him a good servant, and he told him, when you see that I'm opening my mouth with the letter, then put a dot above the letter. And when you see that I'm rounding my lips, put a dot in front of the letter. And when you see that I'm lowering my lower jaw and making E sound, put a sign, a dot under the letter. And when I make a ghunna, which means tanween, put 2 dots. So in this way, they invented and innovated this nice, cool bid'ah, this important bid'ah, this you can say mandatory bid'ah to preserve the Quran. They put what? They put those dots, those red dots. Let's see some examples. For example, here, this is a sign for the kasra, this is a sign for fatha. Okay? Here, these 2 dots sign for tanween, dam, 2 dhammat. This is here a sign for dhamma, as you mentioned. And this is what Imam Abu Amr al-Dani radiallahu anhu, one of the greatest qurra, and he's in the chain almost of all ijazat in the qira'at, and he's the one who started collecting the 7 qira'at, or one of the most famous ones, in his Taysir, which is almost the foundation for Shatibi, of Imam Shatibi. He said in his Al-Muhkam fi Naqt al-Masahif, in his book about the Masahif, Abu al-Aswad chose a man from Abdul Qais, from this tribe, and he told him that, he explained to him what I told him. And he completed the whole Mus'haf in that way. Let's take some examples. Look at this parchment, this manuscript. Anyone can guess? عطاء ربك وما كان. See, here they wrote here وما كان. عطاء, right, your sister? ربك محظورا. See, what does these 2 dots, your sister, indicate? These 2 dots on the screen. You have to know, you have to be following. What do they indicate? Huh? Tanween what? Fatah, Dam, Jar, Fatah. What about this dot here, sister? Yeah, you. Fatha. Rabbika. You're reading the ayah and then guessing, right? So basically the dot under is kasra, like here the ba, B, the dot above is fatha, in front is dhamma.
Where's the Ra?
Where? Here?
Where's Rabbika? Where's the Ra?
This is the ra here too.
Oh.
And what about the hamza? Who remember? I mentioned about the hamza. There were no hamza. The Arabs used to write instead of the hamza either an alif or a waw or a ya or nothing, like here. When the hamza is on the line, they will not write anything because they didn't have a shape for the hamza at that time. It was only a sound. Who first made the shape for the hamza? Al-Khalil bin Ahmad al-Farahidi radiyallahu anhu, one of the greatest Muslim scholars. He made the shape of the hamza. He said hamza from here, a. He said it's close to the ayn. So he got the ayn, right? He looked at the ayn. He said hamza is, and he has a book called Al-Ayn, one of the greatest books in the Arabic language. So he said the hamza is close to the ayn, right sister? A. So he said they're close, so he cut the head of the ayn and made the hamza sign. So at that time, the hamza didn't have a shape yet. And this is why the word sha'a, for example, sha'a, it was like this, sha'a. And this is the qira'ah of Ibn Amir al-Shami. You see how he said any qira'ah must comply with one of the 6 Uthmani masahif. For example, the word sha, it used to be written in all of the 6 Uthmani masahif like this without a hamza because there was no shape for the hamza. So this is read sha, and this is how Ibn Amir, this is how I read to my shaykh, illa man sha, or as-sama, let's say, because not sha, not all of the sha. Let's say as-sama. As-sama, it's like this. We read it min as-sama, for example. Now what about the qira'ah of Hafs, for example, who proves the hamza or pronounces the hamza? Then is this possible? It's possible with adding the hamza. Okay? So in this way, all of the qira'at are accommodated. But look at me here. If in the Quran, in the Prophet ﷺ's time, they used to write the hamza. Can someone now come and say, this word I read it as sama? He cannot. Because it cannot accept this way. Do you understand? Okay. So, that's about the hamza, ya Sheikh Isa. So that's the ra, rabbika, mahvura, that's the ra again. Of course, as you can see, the shapes of the letters slightly different. Then we had so many types of calligraphy. We have the khat and many types of khutut, khat al-nasakh and khat al-thuluth and khat al-kufi. Some of the khutut or of the Arabic writings or fonts, if you like, they're like based on geometry. Like they're all like they have angles and some of them they have curves. So the khutut developed over time, right? But still, you can read them the same. They are the same. So this is an example, as you can see, so these dots are for what, ya sister? I'm asking a sister, brother. For the harakat. These dots are for what? For the harakat. Now, who can guess the next stage? What is the next stage?
Shadda.
Huh?
Shadda.
Shadda and sukoon, basically they depend still on the context. It came later, even later. But now what is the second step? We had dhamma and fatha and kasra.
Which one is dhamma?
We said dhamma. You were right. This is the dhamma on the front of the letter. We said dhamma in the front of the letter, like this one. Okay. Above the letter fatha, in front of the letter dhamma, under the letter kasra. Okay? Look here, for example. Look here, ya Sheikh. See this word? What is it? A, ha. عندك الكبر أحد. See the dal, do. أحدهما. Okay? So, what is the next stage? Now some people, even with these harakat for the i'rab, they might mix because of the dots. They might read the ba as a ta, and they might read the ta as a tha. They might read the sad as dad, or dha, or ta. Even dad and sad and dad, these four, they were the same. So now the need emerged, and they realized that also we have to do something else. What is it? We have to distinguish the letters, because the Arabs, when they got these letters, the Arabs have 29 sounds. 29 main sounds or basic sounds. They got their letters from the tribes in the north of the Arabian Peninsula. And those letters, they were littered. So they would use the same shape for many letters, for many sounds. So for them, that would be ba and ta and tha. And that would be sad and dad and ta and dha. And that would be what? That would be jim and ha and kha. So what did now the need emerged for what? For distinguishing these letters. And this is what Imam, one of the students of Abu al-Aswad Du'ali, Nasr bin Asim al-Laythi. And all of these scholars, they're in the chains of the ijazat. If you see the ijazat, if you remember when I showed you, they are in those chains. So these are the scholars of the Quran. This was their concern, to preserve the Quran and to minimize or to eliminate the possibility of mistakes by people when they read the Quran from the Mus'haf. But honestly, you cannot do that. No matter what you do, still you must depend on the scholars of the Quran in order to recite every word in the Quran correctly. Example, how are you going to read this word? How are you going to read this word in Hafs? Majraha. How are you going to teach the person to read it majreha? How? It's difficult. Unless you tell him, you read this alif here like the word, like the A in the word air, for example. So you say majreha. So, no matter what we do, you still have to get the Quran by oral transmission from the certified scholars who are connected back to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now, this is the second stage. Now they call these. So what are those dots called? Ya Sheikh, those dots that we learned. The first dots that they added to the Quranic writing. What they are dots for? What? For what? They are dots for what? I'rab. Now we're gonna have dots for. Listen, what they call it. Learn this. I'jam. Dots for what? I'jam. Dots for i'jam means the dots that distinguish one letter from another. And this is why if you go to the Arabic books, if you go to the hadith books, guys, if you go to dictionaries and to hadith books, and the scholar wants to explain a word, he tells you this ba, for example, or jim mu'jama. He says mu'jama means it has a dot. So the word mu'jama means it has a dot. So in the past, in the very early times when they did not have these dots, they will explain, they will tell you this dal that is mu'jama or tahtaniya or muthannat, or so they're going to use words to describe to you the letter exactly so that you don't mistake the letter, you don't pronounce it wrong, you don't think it as another word or another letter. Then in modern books you will not see that because the dots replaced that. So Nuqat al-I'jam, as you mentioned, they were started by Sayyiduna al-Imam Nasr bin Asim al-Laythi, who passed away 90 of the Hijrah. 90 after the Hijrah, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did he do? He used some small slashes to distinguish the dots. For one dot will be one small slash, two will be two slashes, and three dots will be three small slashes. And that's what you can see here. Look here, for example, that's one dot. So that will make it dad. That will make it what? Dad instead of sad. Okay? That will make this, for example, two dots. That will make it a ya, for example. This will make it what? Let's say a noon. So he distinguished the letters that are similar. Some letters, they're not, you don't mistake them for other letters, so he kept them as they are. Okay? And he kept the noon. He kept the noon because the shape of the noon is different from the shape of the ba and the ta and the tha. What did he do? He kept the ya and the noon and the fa and the qaf. He kept them as they were. He kept them as they were. And he kept some other letters like the meen, because you don't mistake it for another letter. So he kept them as they are. Now, what did they do? What did they do? Again, another development. Those dots of i'rab, the dots of i'rab, look how they did them now. The fatha used to be a dot above the letter, right? A red dot above the letter. What did they do? They said fatha is like is the mother or the daughter of what? Fatha is the daughter of who? Of the alif. So they said, instead of putting a dot, ya sister, to represent the fatha, let's put an alif. And let's put it like this. For example, this cannot be an alif because the alif should not have a fatha, right? So let's say ba. Did you get that? So he did what? They represented the fatha with what? With an alif that is tilted. So now we have the fatha like this, above the letter. And what about the dhamma? They said dhamma is the daughter of the waw. So let's represent the dhamma with a small waw. And the kasra, it was like this. The kasra is the daughter of who, ya sister?
Yeah.
Of the ya. The ya was like this, look here. Was like this. Look how the ya was. Then they took the tail. They took the tail of the ya, and with time it became just a small slash under the letter. Did you get that? So now we have the harakat. And when we have those harakat, they will get confused with what? With the small slashes, which is for i'jam. So those small slashes that we mentioned, they replace them now with dots. So they switched. And now we have these little signs for harakat, and we have the dots for i'jam to distinguish the letters from each other until our time. Anyone missed anything?
Where did sukun and shadda come in?
Sukun and shadda, it seems they came later. I did not want to go into like more details because we have much more. We have how the kaf developed, and how the sad and the dad and the ta and the da and the hamza. We have so many details, but that will be enough for us for this class. So as you can see, Imam Nasr bin Asim, he put one dot for the ba, two for the ta, etc., etc. And some letters he kept them as they are. And now here, this is just a side note that you have to keep in mind. Nasr bin Asim, he kept these four letters without anything. Or he kept them without anything. Then some scholars in the West, means Morocco, Algeria, those countries, what did they do? And this is, you have to pay attention to this because you'll see some masahif, if they're coming from those countries, you'll see them in this way. The fa, they put nothing on it. The fa has nothing. This is a dhamma. Look here, yakshifu, yukshafu. This is a dhamma, sister. Not a dot. Leave your phone. Make sure you don't hold your phone at all. This is a dhamma. A dhamma. What is this letter? It's a fa, but it has nothing. No dots at all. Now look here. So when these letters, yunfiqu, they come at the end, Nasr bin Asim put nothing for them because they're understood. But when they come here in the middle, like here, he put one dot for the qaf. Look, one dot above for the qaf. This word, for example, sadiqeen. Sadiqeen, look. If you don't know this and you get one of those masahif, you will read it sadiqeen, but it's sadiqeen. So just keep in mind there's this little difference in the fa and the qaf in some masahif. I remember one student came the other day and said, look, there's or a parent, he showed me, oh, there's a mistake in this mushaf. I said, well, look, they made the fa as a fa, this is a fa, is not, so I told him. So, look here for example, what is this letter? What is this letter? Who can guess it? And this blue circle here.
Fa.
Fa, fadharni. So they put the dot for the fa under and one dot for the qaf above. But, yes.
So how would you know if it was like, if it's at the end, how would you know if it was a fa or like a...
From the context. From the context. You will know from the, like here, yukshafu. Yukshafu. It's not like the waw, it's different. So it must be a fa. So from the context, you will know some of them he left them because they will not make a lot of confusion. This is why Al-Mashariqa means the Muslims in the East generally, they did not leave any of these letters without their dots. So they left no room for mistakes in regard with the letters. Did you get that? We have one little thing until now. Who can guess it? One little thing. Now, and this is why I made it in the notes. I included that note. Who can guess that? One letter only. That it could be read in two ways. Ya and alif maqsura. Right? Alif maqsura and ya. At the end of the words, until now in the Quran, the ya doesn't have two dots. In the beginning and the middle it has. At the end it doesn't have. This is why I made a note for you in level I think 2 I added it. So always make sure you get the updated file and keep it with you when you explain to students, because we cannot keep updating their sheets. We already printed the sheets for them and gave it to them. So how to distinguish between the ya and alif maqsura at the end of the word? I mentioned very simple, easy rule to distinguish that. Did you get that, ya Sheikh? So now, the most common masahif, they have dots and they have everything for all the letters. And this way, the mistake will be much less possible. And again, as we mentioned, the main reliance remain and will remain the oral transmission. This is an example of the old manuscripts. As you can see, we have dots, we have harakat. This is Surah Al-Alaq, the beginning, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. And now, what did the scholars do after that? What did the scholars do after that? Now let's try to finish in 3 minutes the last point. How now the scholars preserve those Uthmani masahif. They're gone. As we mentioned, the most correct opinion that we don't have any of those 6 Uthmani masahif. But what did the scholars do? They looked at those masahif. Let's take this ayah here. Al-Alaq. They looked at those masahif. There were no dots, no harakat. They started from Al-Fatiha. They said, they recorded any letter or any sign that is different from the normal writing in their time, they will write it down. Example, to preserve the Uthmani masahif. Example, when you read the Fatiha, Alhamdu, for example. Alhamdu, we write it in the normal writing, Arabic writing, just like in the Quran. But when we come to the word Maliki, for example, in the Quran, how is it written? It's written like this. So those great Muslim scholars, what did they do? They said, this word is written without the alif. And again, why it's written this way? So that in this way it can accommodate the qira'ah that says Malik and the qira'ah that says Malik. So they said, okay, let's make groups of words. Some words like this, it doesn't have an alif. It's written without the alif. Let's come to this word. لَأَذْبَحَنَّهُ. This word, in the normal writing, we write it without this alif. In the Quran, look at the Quran, there's this extra alif that is not read in any qira'ah. It's not read in any qira'ah. Still, it's haram to take it from the Masahif. So what did they do? They said, the words that have an extra alif, and they put this word. In this surah and that surah, this word is written this way. Now, the word, for example, وَامْرَأَةَ عِمْرَانَ, for example, or وَامْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ. This word, they say we write it with a ta' marbuta, but in this place, it's written with ta' mabsuta. So they said, the word is written with ta' mabsuta, etc., etc., etc. What did they do in this way? They preserved the prophetic Qur'anic writing. And this is what Imam Ibn Aljazari mentioned at the end of Aljazariyya. We explained it in the previous course about maqtu' and mawsul and the ta, and in what words the ta is written mabsuta. In what words the word, for example, the word lamma or the word inma, these two words, in which ayat, in which surah they are written as one word and in which surah they are written separate. The scholars recorded every tiny detail of this, and we had a new science called the science of the Mus'haf script. So in this way we can generate the exact same copy that was written in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And now in this time the Muslims still they're thinking to help Muslims read the Quran exactly right. So what did they do? They invented, this is Syrian engineer. He invented the colors for tajweed. For example, in the tajweed mushaf, in this word, you will see this alif in what color? Who knows? Gray. So he said, I'm gonna every letter that is silent, I'm gonna make it gray. But he couldn't take it away from the mushaf. Why? Because it is sacred writing. Now why it is there, I can explain to you. There are many opinions why it's there. There are explanations. But it's not read in any qira'ah. It's not read in any qira'ah. Still, the Muslims agree you cannot take it off. You cannot take it off. And one last example, just to give you an opposite example. مَنْ يُحْيِي. In Surah Yasin, قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ. Look how it's written. يُحْيِي, like this. In the Quran, open your Quran, you see yuhyi written like this. When you say yuhyi, how many ya'at are there? 2. It's written only one ya. You cannot come now and write a ya here. You cannot. Because it was written this way, you keep it this way. Then how do we know? You have to learn it from the shapes. Because the Arabs sometimes, in these words, they keep one ya. Because it's understood. They want to save some ink, ya. Whatever. Okay?
عند الوصل بتروح الياء الثانية ولا؟
يحيي الأرض. Another one explanation, one possible explanation, because when we connect it, we're gonna drop it. We're not gonna say يحيي الأرض. We're gonna drop it in connection. Okay? So that's possible explanation. Do you understand? But when you stop, you have to pronounce it. Where is it? It's not there. You have to learn it. Did you get that? So the scholars of Rasm al-Masahif, what did they do? They, as you can see here, they made so many books about the Qur'anic writing and included all those sections. Imam Ibn Aljazari included these words about Hafs at the end of Aljazariyya, and we explain some of them still on YouTube. And Imam al-Shatibi, he made a great poem, Aqilat Atrab al-Qasaid. He included the words of the 10 qira'at. All those words that are not written exactly as we write in the normal way. In this way, the great Muslim scholars preserved, right, Ya Sheikh? They preserved what? They preserved the Qur'anic writing that was written in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why you have to know these things, guys. Like this, you have to learn that in Hafs, there's no ya. In case someone and read yuhi, he says there's no ya. You have to explain. Any question? Any question about anything we mentioned today? Is that clear? So by this we cover and we complete this topic, alhamdulillah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings. And until now, any printing house in the Muslim world who want to print a mushaf, despite all this and despite the fact that they can just make another copy, they have to show this copy that they want to publish to the ministries of endowments and religious affairs in the Muslim countries. And there are special committees, and those committees, they have to read that copy and approve it before it can be published. And open any mushaf and go to the back and you will see the names of the committees who approved that mushaf. In this way, Muslims did all of their best by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance, who guaranteed He's going to preserve this book. And with these amazing efforts, He did. And all of these efforts, as we mentioned, they cannot replace the oral transmission. As you can see in this example, and majreha and a'jamiyun and etc. In those few words, as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed those words to keep the Muslims relying on the oral transmission. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who appreciate those great efforts and who learn those great sciences, and of those who recite the Quran in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who understand the Quran and act upon the Quran and pass this great message of the Quran to others. صلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.